Welcome to Ignite Success. I'm your host, Snowden McFall, 25-year professional speaker, 6-time author, and women's coach. And with me today is Braun Sherl. And Rachel is out of New Jersey, and she is the founder of Spark Solutions for Growth. And so, Rachel, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So you're in an interesting industry and you call yourself a Vagipreneur. So what does that mean?
So a Vagipreneur was a title that I was given by a very talented journalist by the name of Abby Ellen, who wrote the first article about my first sexual health company in the New York Times. And I asked permission. I said, if you don't want to use it, I want to use it. People love it. It really is meant to refer to someone who's in the business of female sexual and reproductive health. So I spend my days and nights working with entrepreneurs, working with large companies and large brands, helping them build businesses in the space generally from menstruation through menopause, essentially across the range of a woman's sexual and reproductive life.
Terrific. And, you know, in the field of marketing, I know you do a lot of strategic marketing consulting. I know you're not using traditional advertising as much. What are you using?
So one of the challenges in working in this space, and certainly when I was running a product company, and now that I work with a number of product and service companies, is that you don't have the same access to any kind of media. So when I started my business, we went to 100 different outlets, whether it was network, cable, website, radio, and 95% of them said no. That was about 12 years ago. Today, many companies still, 2020, still have the same issues with most of the social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram. A whole bunch of limitations are put on this content. There's also always a lot of conversation and challenges. For instance, there are a number of male-focused brands that are able to advertise in the New York City Metropolitan Transportation Authority system, which is in all of the subways. So you can have products advertised around erectile dysfunction and even the Museum of Sex, but not products for menstruation or female pleasure. So there are just a whole lot of barriers, both advertising and societal barriers around being able to advertise in this space.
That is so ridiculous. It's just absurd because there's so many, obviously, women in this country who need this kind of education and these services and products.
One of the places I always start with is talking about how big the need is and how big, as a result, the business opportunity is. So 43% of women at some point in their lives have sexual concerns and difficulties. A third of women never experience an orgasm. 33% of women suffer from incontinence at some point in their lives or symptoms of incontinence. Close to 50% of the pregnancies every year in the US are unwanted and missed times. We have a totally below average standard for sex education in the US, whereby some states mandate it and a subset of those don't even require it to be scientifically or medically accurate. So these are big issues, big problems, and they're also big business for the companies that are able to find and deliver the solutions to the people who need them.
Well, thank goodness you're helping them. That's so important. It's so important. And I understand you've also written a book.
I did. About 2 years ago, I wrote a book called Orgasmic Leadership, Profiting from the Coming Surge in Women's Sexual Health and Wellness. And really, it's a book about my journey and the journey of over 36 healthcare practitioners, entrepreneurs, and academics, as other Vagipreneurs as well, and how they've capitalized on existing business trends to build businesses in this space. Whereas we've talked about briefly, there are a number of enormous challenges and barriers. We have challenges with education. We have limitations with language. What do we call these body parts? How do we talk about them? How do we talk about pleasure? And the things that they've done, many of the folks in the book, some are relatively new to the space in the last 5 or 6 years. Some have been at this for decades, figuring out how to get the information out and to make available the information, products, and services to enhance women's lives. And there's a large conversation going on right now in the space that says women's health is total health. Sexual health is total health. That the idea that we separate these as distinct categories. We're really much more integrated and complex and intersecting in terms of our system. So it's really misleading to look at just one part of health without looking also at the other aspects, including mental and sexual health.
Well, and I know that for a very long time, many of the studies that were done and many of the laws that were passed around women's health were based on men's health. They did not do studies of women's health, and they did not, I mean, recently, I believe in the past year, there was a component of Congress that met to make a whole bunch of decisions about women's health, and there was not one single female in the room, right? I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. You hear dozens of stories like that, hundreds of stories like that. I recently read an article about a medical student was responding to something that her medical professor said, which was, it doesn't hurt when you insert or remove an IUD. And, he's never had one inserted.
So how would he know? Yeah.
The medical students in his class said, well, how do you know that? And he said, well, no one ever complains, which is unfortunately what happens as a de facto response. There's a lot of things that women experience that we don't talk about. That doesn't mean they don't exist. It often means we either don't have the right environment, language, or comfort level to have those conversations.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for all that you're doing and the awareness you're bringing to this. Where can people find out more about you and what you have to offer?
So if you look up Vagipreneur or Orgasmic Leadership or my name, Rachel Braun Sherl, I will pop up. I am also on my website at Spark Solutions for Growth. The book is available on Amazon, and I'm always delighted for people to reach out to me directly on any platform, social media, email, otherwise. My handle is always RB Scherl, SCHERL, and I think this conversation is so important, and I try to be really, really responsive because I think anyone who wants to be in this conversation, we need you and we want to have you involved.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Stay safe and healthy.
Same to you. Thank you so much for having me.